Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Masters of Health, our career spotlight. Welcome to another episode. We have a new guest in the house, Miss Ine Saka. Ine is a nurse. How are you? So Ine is she's a family nurse practitioner. So she's an FNP. So I'm gonna let Ine tell us more about who she is, what a nurse practitioner is, how it's different, what a family nurse practitioner is, if it's different from a nurse practitioner, and just about her profession in general. All right, Ine, it's on you.
Hello, thank you for having me, Deidre. My name is Ine Saka. I am a family nurse practitioner. You asked what the difference between a family nurse practitioner versus a general nurse practitioner is that the family usually takes care of people from birth all the way throughout the human lifespan, versus a general nurse practitioner usually just picking up at the age of 13 and older, what we call adult nurse practitioners.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what I do as a nurse practitioner pretty much is very similar to what your doctor does. When you're sick, people come in and see us, and we diagnose you based off of your symptoms, and we write prescriptions or give you other tips on how to get well, and how to also, outside of sickness, how to maintain your wellness, to prevent you from getting sick. So I recently was blessed to open a clinic in the South Side part of Richmond, Virginia, the city of Richmond, which is in Virginia, where I am now able to practice modern day medicine. But because my passion has always been holistic wellness as well, having my own space has enabled me to combine the two for what some call integrative medicine, where we combine Western medicine with a holistic approach. So what that looks like is usually when I have a patient come in with a sickness, instead of being overzealous to throw medications at them, I ask them, what are your activities of daily living looking like, and what are foods that you're eating? Just pretty much trying to get down to the bottom of what are some things in your general environment that may just be making you sick that we can just eradicate and possibly go without medication. So that's always my first approach, is to, increase cardiovascular activity and eliminate certain foods. And, those are usually my first approaches. And then obviously, if we don't have success with the holistic approach, we go to pharmaceutical medications for various ailments when necessary and when appropriate.
I like that, the integrative medicine. Two things that really stood out. It's always like, yes, like what foods are you eating? But you also talked about the cardiovascular piece, and that indicates like the necessity for movement. The culture that I'm a part of, that I practice in the community that I'm a part of, movement is part of the foundation. We should always be moving. So I really love that you said that, and that's a part of your practice and your method. I just want to take a pause and say hello, greetings to the chat, greetings Sovereign Ease, greetings Sister Kashia and Brother Antonio Smith. Shalom, shalom, shalom. I'm so glad that you could join us. So back to you, Ine. So part of what this show is about, I always like to tell my guests, either off camera or on camera, it doesn't matter. It's really about public health, right? And introducing people who are either students, whether it be public health students, but mainly public health students, or recent grads, or people who are just interested in the field, right? Because it kind of came center stage with the pandemic. Everybody's like, public health, what's that? So, this is something that kind of shows people, it gives them a glimpse into the kinds of professions that sit in the public health arena. So does it mean that everyone has an MPH? No. but it shows you all the different professions and career paths that touch on that you would do really well in, whether you have an MPH or not. If that's your passion, if that's where you want to go, here's like some examples of the things that you can do. So this is why it's like, you know, it's important to like be very diverse with all of the guests on this show. So I'm really glad that you could come and share what a family nurse practitioner does, because it is definitely part of public health, especially since we've had to take a step back and kind of look at our activities and what we're doing, and things, you know, issues on like immunity have really become a big deal when we're talking about pandemics. Like, how are people taking care of themselves at the basic levels? So like you said, they don't have to like start turning to pharmaceuticals. How can we have the holistic approach before we go to modern medicine? We're not discounting it, but there's other things that are in place that actually work that we can try before we go there. So I think that's awesome. Normally I would ask, like, you know, what area of health, usually public health, I would ask what area of public health, because there's different like professions and different pathways and lines in the public health field. So what I would ask you is, which you probably kind of touched on before, what area of health does it cover? You know, so you talked about like the integrative medicine. So I guess for you, it would be like you said, like the family health. So can you go a little bit deeper into that part?
Yeah, so what I do, my area of expertise is what they call primary health care, or also known as preventative health care. So primary health care pretty much idealistically screens you before things get bad. So, for instance, if you're coming into your primary health care provider once a year for your annual physicals, we can catch things. If you're getting your cholesterol checked, we can check your if the cholesterol's high. We may be able to offset a stroke or a heart attack by correcting it before a complete blockage in the arteries occurs. If diabetes is present, we can you know the I guess the screening for diabetes allows us to provide interventions before you start to become symptomatic, before the limbs start to become numb and they have to go. So it's just, preventative health care is pretty much a annual screening of the body to nip things in the bud. And to also give you, on the flip side, to also give you the comfort of knowing that there's nothing going on with you, and you're good for another year. So that's another, because sometimes living in a society where everyone, we have the pandemic, and everyone is falling ill, it kind of puts people in a state of paranoia. So, one small ailment and people are all over Google, I think this is it. I think I have this. I think I have that. So you come into your primary healthcare provider, they screen you for whatever you think you have. And, we prove Google wrong. And then it's funny because I always tell people the mind is very powerful, because when you start thinking that there's something wrong, somehow the body just kind of flows with that.
Yep.
So, yeah, and so on the flip side of that, once you're given the comfort of knowing that there's nothing going on with you, then the body can start healing. The mind can start healing the body again. So it's just, preventative health care is it helps prevent things. I mean, for instance, right now, one of my biggest things are screening men for prostate cancer. I lost my stepfather last year to prostate cancer, and it was just one of those things where he got screened for prostate cancer, but he was and he didn't follow through with his care. And so prostate cancer is not something that men have to die from, but if a man is coming into his preventative screenings, or his primary health care, for his primary health care screenings, we can check your PSA through blood. And if your PSA is elevated, we can refer you to the urologist. And if the urologist does confirm that it's cancer, the prostate can be removed with very little intervention. I mean, very little invasiveness, I should say. And it's something that you can heal from, and people live 50 years after that. So, I mean, that it's just, but if you don't know that the issue is there, then it spreads throughout the body and then you succumb to it. So
Right.
that's the role that primary healthcare plays. Same thing with women and pap smears. If you don't know that the cervical cancer is there on the cervix, there's nothing we can do to I guess remove the cancerous spot so that it doesn't spread throughout the body and be a life sentence for you. But
Mm-hmm.
if you don't come in and get the screening, we don't know. You'll never know until you get real sick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the role that preventative healthcare plays in and just people's well-being.
Yeah. I want to ask you to talk a little bit about Empathy Wellness Center and like the stage for that, because part of what happens in public health, like people think like, oh, hospitals, but there's so many different places that people can work. It's not always clinics either. So, but you have your own. You're a CEO of your own business, which we love on this channel. So I want you to talk a little bit about Empathy Wellness Center and what you do there. And how that kind of works with, because like some of what I'm hearing when you're talking about go for your annual checkup, preventative medicine is key, because what we know is like a lot of the times melanin dominant people don't go to the doctor, right? So that's what I'm hearing in some of this. So I want you to talk a little bit into how Empathy Wellness Center also approaches that as well.
Yeah. So Empathy Wellness Center, it's a wellness center. I don't like to really refer to it as a clinic. In fact, when you walk into the wellness center, you're greeted. I try to have as many plants available. The aroma of sage, ignites the building, and we just try to take as much as of a holistic approach, um, even from the time that you enter the door. Um, the clinic, the clinic ambiance that you're used to, it kind of, we try to eradicate that and try to allow people to, I guess, shift their thinking from what they think healthcare should be to, what it can be. And so at the wellness center, we offer primary health care. So there is an exam room where you'll see your exam table and you'll see your phlebotomy chair where you go get your blood taken, all the standard things that you would see in a clinic setting. But also across the hall, we have a colonic room. And
I
I,
saw the post. I'm like, talk a little bit about that.
yeah, so colonics are a way of detoxing the body um, by irrigating the lower colon. So it's been found even the first colonic can dates back into the times of ancient Egypt, actually, where the first colonic irrigation was documented that it occurred. And the purpose of a colonic is that there's literally a connection from the gut to the brain that can cause different types of ailments if there's too many toxins loading up in the colon. So a lot of the times people come in with various ailments that are originated right in the gut. And so if we're cleansing the colon routinely, we're less likely to have seepage of those toxins from the colon into the bloodstream and then irritating the nervous system and the joints and things of that nature. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of your inflammatory diseases and as well as autoimmune diseases can can be caused by toxins seeping out of the colon into the bloodstream,
Mm-hmm.
causing you achy joints and anxiety and just skin eruptions, a list of things. So I realized, I said, how can I offer healthcare when a lot of my patients are walking around with the source of their sickness right in their tummies? So that made me look into colon hydrotherapy. I became a colon hydrotherapist last year, and we purchased what we call uh, a Libby device, which is our there's a lot of different kinds of colon hydrotherapy machines, but the Libby is what we have, and they call it the Mercedes Benz or the Bentley of all the colonic machines because it provides comfort, and it's just it provides comfort. It's no odor, and it's just it provides a easy it provides ease to the situation, because a lot of times that type of scenario can be a little bit awkward for people, but the way that the machine the device makes it more comforting, if anything. So a
Right.
lot of people can go to sleep during their sessions. So
Right. Yeah, I saw the post. I was like, oh, it looks like it's not that bad. It doesn't look that bad. I have a question. So, if you're giving, because there are a lot of people who talk about colonics and do this and do that. So, as someone who's a clinician, what is the recommendation, or are there guidelines, which I'm sure there are, but can you talk about like some guidelines on people who do offer colonics? Like, what should people be looking for? What should they watch out for as maybe something that is like a sign of, oh, maybe I shouldn't go there for a colonic, or maybe I shouldn't take this? Like, what is the recommendation of what people can do? Can they do something at home where they take something and flush out, or is it best to actually go into a space and get an actual colonic? And then what should the professional, criteria, what professional criteria should the professional possess if you're going to that space?
So your colon hydrotherapist should possess some sort of Act 1 membership and certification. Act 1 is the governing body for colon hydrotherapy in the U.S. Um, there's really not too much, that too much at a colonic site that you should see that would turn you off, besides just something visibly unsanitary. And obviously that's anything. Anytime you just, if something looks visibly unsanitary, you're going to get out of there. But other than that, as long as they the colon hydrotherapist seems well versed in their education on colon health before and after colonic care, and yeah, like I said, sanitation. It's usually okay. Um, what was I going to say? For me, when people come in, I promote. Idealistically, we say that 3 sessions are desired for the optimal results, optimal cleansing results. So typically you'll have your first colonic, and then you'll have your second one within 7 days. Within 7 days, idealistically closer to back to back to your first one, and then your third colonic happening about 8 to 14 days out. But most of the time, if they're able to present an Act 1 certification, they are legit.
Okay.
And if you can't get to a colonic for gut health, you always want to make sure that you're drinking plenty of water. Lime water is really good. It's alkaline, and it has vitamin C. And then you can also infuse your water with chlorophyll drops as well. Chlorophyll is a blood purifier. It's the green dye from plants. It's a blood purifier, and it also has a way of deodorizing the colon. So you have lime juice you can infuse your water with, or your chlorophyll. Those are two of my go-tos. In fact, for my colonic customers, after they finish their colonic, I always give out a bottle of chlorophyll infused water. But even outside of that too, probiotics are really good for regulating the bacteria in the colon and keeping things at bay.
Mm-hmm. Could you OD on them? Because isn't like some bacteria good bacteria? So if you're taking too much to clean out, is it possible for you to clear out some of the good bacteria that you need? Like, how do you keep from doing that?
Yeah, so that is possible, and so that's why we do things like the probiotics actually provide a good balance of the good of the it keeps your flora good, so that the too much good, too much bad doesn't take over and cause you any imbalances. So in the case of colonics, sometimes you may find that you have an imbalance of probiotics, and a good and bad bacteria, and in that case, probiotics or something with live cultures is, also a good way to balance out the scenario too for you.
Okay. So that's awesome. Like, thank you for. So, what else does Empathy Wellness Center offer? So, there's the colonics, and it really is, like you said, it's not a clinic. So, for everybody, it is a wellness center, and it is set up as such. So, if you visit, which I'll put down in the bottom in the description box, like Ine has all sorts of nice posts, and you can see visuals of the center. If you are in the Richmond, Virginia area, make sure you stop by. It does look very planty. It looks like a spa. So, so I'll make sure to put the link to your IG and LinkedIn in the description box and make sure everybody visits. So what else does Empathy Wellness Center offer?
Well, right now, we do have a what we call a multi-usage space, which eventually we'll be using for yoga and trauma healing circles. So right now, I am working to network with a few social workers in the area, and working to in the middle of doing making the wellness center 501c3, so that I can fund the social workers that are willing to come in and talk, host the healing, the trauma healing circles. But the trauma healing circles, what I envision for the trauma healing circles, we all have trauma, and I really feel like collectively we heal best. So I'm looking to create a list of various topics: single parenting, molestation, substance abuse. Just various topics of trauma that us human beings face in this lifetime. And if the topic resonates with you, you come on in. You register for the course and you come on in. I'm even thinking about trying to make it a Zoom option, but I would also like to keep them as sacred as possible, because I want to keep it as a safe a safe space for people to feel comfortable enough to purge, and not feel like they're being judged. And I think too many, I guess, too large of a group, I think at times may make some of the more introverted participants less willing to open up. So I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to do that. But the trauma healing circles hopefully will be coming soon. Probably, I want to say in the next couple of months. So with the yoga classes, yoga, to promote, body movement, obviously, because with this pandemic, we have the rise of depression and anxiety, especially with people anxious about getting the vaccine and not knowing the odds and ends. I'm running into a lot of anxiety with people, and so just yoga is more than just body movement. It's breath work, it's thought processes that help ease the nervous system. So that's something that we are in the process of trying to get on the schedule. And other than that, it's just going to be community outreach. So your community outreach is going to look like in the wintertime, we'll be doing vegan chili bowl giveaways, and healthy food drives, and community wellness education courses and things of that nature.
Do you offer? Do you think any of these will be virtual? Because if you were looking to expand into helping people, showing them how to eat and transition their diet, I got people. I can send them to you, and they can. If you're doing virtual, I have someone who, and they're in the chat. Some of them. I got doulas who are virtual. I've got some people who kind of help people transition and change up their eating habits to get healthier. That helps with that gut brain connection and clearing up the gut. So, we'll definitely put you in touch with those folks if you're looking for virtual. We're always into collaborations here.
Yes. Yeah.
Say that again.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So tell us how you got to this path. So Ina and I actually knew each other when we were very, very young people, little people, prepubescent. So it's always interesting, because as people are watching, and as I said, if you're a student, you're like, well, what's your path? Because people kind of relate. They can relate to if you say, well, this was my path. Even though it's not, it kind of humanizes like how you got to where you are, and it just doesn't look like this unattainable thing, right? So can you share with us what your path was? Like, how did you become a family nurse practitioner, and then the roadway to creating and opening Empathy Wellness Center?
All right. Well, I started off as a registered nurse, and honestly, I went to school. I graduated from high school early. I went to school for business administration. I got a business degree, and about 5 years into that degree, I was just like, I want to do something different. So I decided to. There was another school that was doing a nursing program. I had another friend that was in the nursing program, and she said, "Come on, let's just let's do it together." So we went to nursing school, and I became a registered nurse. And a couple of years after that, I said, "Hmm, I could go for. I think I would like to. I would like to be able to offer more to my patients, because as a nurse, you're like the liaison for your patients,
Yeah.
and the confidant, and you play a major role. But I said, well, what if I'm doing all of this and I could also diagnose and prescribe? That would be really serving, my patients. So I decided to go back to school for a family nurse practitioner. It was a online program that I was able to complete in 2 years. But, before I could enter the online program, I had to have been a nurse for 2 years prior to them considering me for the program. But during the nurse practitioner degree, I had to collaborate with pediatricians, gynecologists, and internal medicine doctors in order to complete my clinical hours, which was really good exposure. I had the opportunity to work with some really, really great providers in the community that pretty much gave me the odds and ends, and the confidence and the knowledge base that I was going to need to go out and as one of my supervisors would always say, heal the world. So I just, after I finished my nurse practitioner degree, it was a little bit difficult for me to find a job, but eventually I did, because no one wanted new grads. It was like, new grads, no one wants that. So I was able to find a job at an organization called Capital Area Health Network, and it just so happened that they were opening a new clinic. This was initially started off as one clinic, and by the time I got to them, they had about 4 or 5, and they were opening their 6. And they wanted me to be the provider at at this clinic on a college campus, which I was a little bit nervous, but they placed me with a really, really awesome nurse. And she was, because every provider has their own nurse or medical assistant, and she was really, really resourceful. And I had a receptionist there at the office, and then obviously my supervisor was always on call if I ever had any trouble. But it was I got an opportunity to just to see how much knowledge I had obtained during my clinicals. And I always, give much kudos to the providers, that the pediatricians and the doctors that I provided, that I followed during school, because when I went in there, I started diagnosing and treating with knowledge that I didn't even realize was there. And, and people, my patients were really, really pleased with me. In fact, they used to come in and, ask for me, and we used to chat. And I became, almost like because it was a college population, I became almost like a second mom, as
Yeah.
well as the healthcare provider, to them. And it was a really, really good fit. But it also prepared me for the next step, and that was to open up my own space. So I stayed with them for about 3 years, and then before deciding that I wanted to go independently and open up my own space. And so I it's funny. I'm gonna share this, because as a family nurse practitioner, you're always a registered nurse. And so I had one of my friends who's a registered nurse was telling me about I was telling her about the fact that I wanted to go and start a practice, but I said, I'm going to need more resources, and you know, how can I, withstand? And she said, well, Ine, you know that you can go and work 3 days a week as an RN in a hospital and still get, good money. And I said, well, really? Yeah. And she's like, yeah, you can do that. And so I was just like, actually I could. So that's what I did, honestly. And it was a lot. The startup for it was a lot because at one point in time I was literally working my 9 to 5 as a nurse practitioner, and then 3 nights out of the week I was working as a registered nurse. But that's how I accumulated my startup cost to purchase the building that we're in now, and to purchase all the equipment, and to get things rolling. But yeah, so I mean, a few sleepless nights. So you talk about somebody getting it out the mud. But we when there's a will, there is a way, and that's all I push that to anybody. Where there is a will, there is a way. So.
Yeah. Two things. Like, first I wanted to say your friend gave you the aha. That was that aha moment.
Yes, she did. Yes,
And
she did.
then I wanted, like, two things that you pointed out. Like, number one, that's awesome that you shared that about like where you started, because sometimes it's like when we come straight off the presses, we like go to, I'm gonna not repurpose, but I'm gonna like kind of go back to a term we used last strong, the Goliath firms, right? And then these big places that, like, oh, I'm gonna work for this place. But maybe sometimes it's good to start small. So this is for all those new grads or people who are like, oh, what should I do? Go to the smaller places, because a lot of the times there's more room for growth. Just like you had, where you went to someplace small, and then lo and behold, they're actually working on becoming large, and they had this partnership, and then you were able to become like the provider at a whole university. So like that's a really good tip, for people who are kind of moving on that pathway. It's like, start small. Then the other thing is, like, you literally like pulled in, like, this is like a really good example of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, right? You had all this knowledge in your head, and you didn't even realize it until you were forced to use it. That's where the wisdom comes in, because you're actually in action and you're doing it. So now you can sit here on a program like this and like tell us, okay, well, I did this, this is how you do it, because you have now that understanding, because it wasn't like information that just sat in your brain useless and then becomes corrupted. Because a lot of the time when we have information and when we don't use it's like, oh, I don't remember, like, and then you could like be a danger to somebody, advise them on something that is old information, file corrupted, right? So I think that's a really good lesson to highlight: knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, because that literally is what happened for you. So I think that's amazing. So the other thing I want to ask is, like, so tell us about a day in the life of, again, which you touched on a little bit, because you were like, well, I was working as a registered nurse, and then I did da 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 da. So what about now? Now that you, we're losing you.
Sorry.
now that you
Okay.
have now that just greetings to everyone in the chat. We got a lot of new people. Peace, Aquia. Peace, Precious Stepney. Kim Jones, welcome. And Naya, and top tier speakers. Greetings, greetings, greetings. If you have questions, you know the deal. Please put it in the chat. So now that you've kind of been doing this, like, how long? So number one, how long has Empathy Wellness Center been up and operating? And then number two, what does it look like? A day in the life of, what does it look like?
Okay. Well, the Wellness Center has been in operation now. Started in about June, so about 4 months. It's been about 4 months now since maybe about three months actually, since I went live and just let everyone know, hey, I'm here and I'm ready for you all. So it's been about 3 months, and my days look like me coming downstairs to the wellness center to turn on the waterfall. That's one of my favorite things to do, because we have like a mini waterfall, and it's just it was a touch that I felt like was really necessary for the space, and a lot of people seem to appreciate it. So that's one of my first things to do. We light up the space, maybe turn on the oil infuser, get a nice aroma going through, and we it looks like oftentimes there's a blend of clients. So now I call them clients versus patients. So my clients are colonics clients, and my patients are the healthcare side. So there's literally, I have two businesses under one roof. My practice is Empathy Healthcare Solutions. And the Empathy Wellness Center is where, a lot of the community outreach will be occurring, as well as the colonic. So the colonic is separate from the healthcare practice. And so it's pretty much, it's often a blend. There's usually a blend on the schedule. May have a few colonics and then a few patients. But, we just, it depends on whatever the scenario is right now. We're just letting it flow. At the time of scheduling, obviously I'm seeing what they're there for. And, there's a pre-screening, a mini pre-screening for the colonic clients that pretty much ask a little bit about medical background and making sure that there's no contraindications going on with them prior to us doing the colonic. And we just get through the day that way. And, I'll provide follow-up to everybody. For my colonic clients, they are provided with a post-meal plan that they should adhere to in the days following their colonic to maintain, their cleansing. And then my patients, I also provide follow-up as far as, if I did blood work, obviously I tell them that, we'll be talking, or if I gave them a homework assignment, I'm always giving my patients homework assignments. Just, you come in with an elevated blood pressure. Our assignment is to check your blood pressure 3 times, 2 times a day for the next 3 days, and let's talk on the 3rd day about the trends, and take it from there. And then, it also has lifestyle things to incorporate along with the blood pressure. The blood pressure concern. So your assignment is also to stay away from high sodium containing foods and to exercise 15 to 30 minutes rigorously 3 to 4 times a week. So if it comes, it's fun. It's rewarding. It's very rewarding. I enjoy it.
That's awesome. We should all be so lucky. We should all be, but it's not even luck. It's like perseverance. It's like pushing through and knowing that you can do things on your own without, waiting for, someone else to say like, oh, I'm going to give you this job. I think that's all. I always think that's amazing. So we are all, we're all trying to be like that. What you doing? That right there.
I always tell if people knew me when I was going through the startup phases, there were times that I was literally sleeping in my car because I would leave my 9 to 5 and then try to catch 2 hours of sleep before going to my 7P to 7A. Mm-hmm. So, it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tear put into that. But, hard work, it pays off, and, sacrifice, it pays off.
Yeah. It has to hurt, right? It has to if we're going to do something worthwhile.
It's going to grow you. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a question in the chat. Well, first we have a comment. People, Aquia says, good for you, Ine. This is great. Precious says your story was very inspirational. Thank you for sharing. Because she says she appreciates your story. It's very motivating as she presses forward toward a nurse midwife profession. So like these are some folks that, like if you're doing virtual, like because she is a doula, someone else in the chat, like she does the food. So I'll connect you. Aquia says, do you integrate both sides with your medical patients? So like, I guess that, and Aquia, please put in the chat if this is correct. So I'm guessing the question is, do you offer colonics to the medical patients, and do you offer medical services and the practice services to your colonic clients? I think that's right.
Yeah, I do actually. When appropriate, only when appropriate. So, for instance, if I have a client that's coming in for complaints of constipation, and they come and another provider has had them on stool softeners and laxatives chronically. I'm just like, hey, have you tried increasing your fluid intake or maybe a colonic? And so they're just like, what's that? And
Okay.
so and I have seen an improvement as long as the dieting, the certain the food intake, and and fluid, I guess hydration is maintained. I have seen an improvement in people with chronic bowel conditions that begin the colonics. So yeah, when it's appropriate, I'm not just offering colonic to everybody that come through the door. If you're there for an annual physical, I am not bothering you about getting
Right. You want colonic?
no. But for my colonic customers, yes, I may run it past you. We do annual physicals too. So, but as far as the healthcare, I only do it when it's appropriate. And that's the only time. Other than that, I don't bother my patients with it. But I do mention my my healthcare practice to my colonic clients. Just can't hurt. Because sometimes people come in for colonics and haven't had a checkup for about 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. So, what are some pros that you like about your pathway or your career as a family nurse practitioner and owner of your own wellness center? And what are some things you wish you could change? That's always a stumper.
Well, right now, I
But
wish
it's so
that I
new.
could change. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Right now, I wish that I could change the slow influx of patients that I have. I just want, but it's so funny because I was one of my mentors, Dr. Joseph. She told me, she said, Ine, when I open my practice, and mind you, she sees, or I know about 20 patients a day now, but she's like, and her waiting list is people love her, so it's far out. But she said I started off seeing like 2 to 3 patients, a day, or 2 or 3 patients here or there, and I was like, that's me. So she was like, it's gonna pick up. Just she was like, that was me 30 years ago. Now look at me. So I was just like, okay, that was good to hear. But that's just the fact that things are starting off sort of slow, or sometimes it's a little bit it's a little bit nervousome, but other than that, but then again, on the flip side of that, I'm going to put it out there. If I have to, I will go pick up a part-time as an RN. That's just one of the good things about being a nurse. You can go and do your 3 days or 3 nights a week, and know that your family is still going to eat. That's just, I love nursing for that. As a single mom of 4, nursing has really done it. It's put food on the table consistently for me. And it's one thing that I haven't had to fret over. So, but
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I am that I love about having my own wellness center is just the fact that I get to walk into my own space that I designed, my own healing space that I designed each day, and it's it's a feeling that I can't describe. It's a very satisfying feeling. Is on the soul level that
Mm-hmm.
I have never. I've had my nurse practitioner job. I loved it. I had a wonderful supervisor there, but walking into your own healing space that you designed, and being able to do what you love and connect with people and talk about things that you are that you have acquired knowledge in, it's just it's extremely gratifying.
That's
So
awesome. Good for you. So, what advice would you offer to, a student coming behind you? So, like to a student watching this, what advice would you offer them?
um to a student, or what does it matter the major, or you're saying a nursing student or any student?
Any student coming up in health or public health, because they'll be looking at they may be looking at these careers. I mean, unless their whole thing is like, I want to do research or I want to go into the field. But a health student that is looking at this type of career, whether it be family nursing or because they're interested in community health, right? Because a lot of what you do is also community health, especially as you're talking about what the expansion looks like. So what would you offer that person?
I would tell them to be intentional about acquiring as much knowledge as you can. Do not take your studies lightly. Our community, our people we need you. And you want to make sure that you don't take, you don't want to take your studies lightly, because you may very well save a life based off of your knowledge and background. So don't take it lightly, even when it may feel like something that may feel unimportant. But everything surrounding wellness, everything surrounding the human being is important. um, and just try to be the best that you can be, so that you can be of service to others. There's nothing more gratifying than being able to be of service to others, and then potentially save a life. So that's what I would say. Just don't take your studies lightly. It's not, healthcare and people's wellness is not a game. I always tell people, you want to be able to offer people care the same way that you would want someone to offer the same quality of care that you would want someone to offer your sick mother, or your sick father, or your sick child. You want to be able to be that person to offer that same quality. So just do everything that you can to be well versed in your craft, and so that you can offer the best care, and so that people are safe in your hands.
Give thanks for that insight. I have a question in the chat, and I have a question. So 2 questions. So I'm going to go to the chat first. Top tier speaker says, she's asking, do you find it more difficult for men to come in for colonics?
Of course. Of course.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. And it's a shame, because men develop, colon conditions and things of that nature, just like everyone else. But I don't, it's just this, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Yes, that to that question, yes, they're very, very apprehensive about it, and a lot of them just downright won't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can speculate as to why, but we're not going to speculate right
Yeah,
now.
we're not
Yeah, I got some ideas, but I don't do colonics. I had a question about, so this kind of ties into, like, because you just opened and you're like, oh, I want to, see more patients coming in. How has the current state of things, so like the pandemic and the way people are, now being kind of corralled, right, in their movements, how has that affected, or how do you think that has affected, how you're opening, how you're moving, or, even maybe like what you've seen in your movements while you were still like doing the nursing?
You said, so how are things changed? How have things changed since the
How
pandemic?
how have they changed, or even just like what
It's
has your experience been?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I apologize.
Oh,
One more time.
I said, how have they changed, or how has the experience been, like while you've been moving around in the pandemic? I'll just say it like that. Like, how has it affected things?
Well, in healthcare, we always we follow what you call standard precautions anyway. And standard precautions are, if you see blood, or if you're coming in contact with bodily fluids, you're gonna wear gloves. If you have a cold that day, you're gonna come to work with a mask on. So all of these things are standard precautions. Before you leave out of a room, you're gonna pump some hand sanitizer on your hands. So these are all, standard precautions have been there. So now I think that with the pandemic being present, um, standard precautions have not only become the responsibility of healthcare providers, but also of patients. You see patients being a lot more cognitive, I guess, a lot more, what is the word I'm looking for? Present with their standard precautions, making sure their hands are clean. Everyone's coming in with masks. People are asking more questions about, health and things of that nature. People are becoming more curious about health and wellness. But from a healthcare standpoint, standard precautions have been there, and they're still there. The only thing that is a step further from what we usually do in the in the healthcare field are the mask all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, standard precautions have been there all the time. So it's just, it's been pretty consistent, and it just seems like everyone else, as far as the patient populations, are just becoming more cognitive about
Okay. Yeah.
cleanliness.
Okay. I always like to like when I have someone who's like been a clinician, I'm like, give us a COVID story. What happened? What had happened?
Yeah, everything. Nope, everything has been smooth sailing for me. Nothing stands out. It's just, I actually like it. It's the mask. I mean, if you travel abroad, everyone, for the most part, people wear masks. It's just, it's standard. It's just here in the U.S. that people, really, don't mask. But now it's just because of the pandemic, we mask, and that's one of the only things that has stood out for me, that sometimes it makes me feel like I'm living in a Netflix original when I look around and everyone's masked up. But that's the only thing that stands out.
That's interesting. A Netflix original. so we so we're gonna end with that. Thank you so much, Ine, for dropping by. So as I said before, I'm gonna put Ine's information down in the chat. And before we go, I just want to let everybody know today's live has been brought to you by top tier speakers. Make sure you check out her videos every Monday, Thursday, and Friday. She's giving really good, like, quick wisdom on Myotic Mondays. There's the Soul Searching Thursdays and the Hard Hitting Truths on Fridays. So make sure you check her out. Top tier speakers on YouTube. And I just want to end with what you said, Ine, was amazing. Like, being in service is one of the best things that you can do, because with our New Life Global Ministries, that's what we do. It's about being in service. That's what it helps you also kind of find what your purpose is. So I wanted to just like reiterate what you said, because I totally agree. So thank you so much for dropping by. This was an awesome interview. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell at the bottom and follow Empathy Wellness Center and Deidre Sully. And if there's anyone who's watching, you have someone you want to suggest that we interview, we're happy to reach out. You can leave a comment or contact me at any one of the outlets in the description box. Peace, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Peace.